Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very festive edition of Overrated, Underrated. As always, I am Alex, and I'm joined by a very festive James. James, what is happening?
Again, not much really. We are rapidly approaching Christmas, and it all feels a bit weird. Actually, it doesn't feel that Christmassy because of obviously the natural lockdowns, etc., etc. Tier systems isn't really the most festive thing in the world, is it? Really? What about down there? Can we? Sorry, mate. I'm just gonna have to cut that one off right now. That was awful yet again. Nothing about that was slick or don't ask me what's going on because the answer's invariably not a lot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very festive edition of Overrated, Underrated. I am Alex, and as always, I am joined by my very festive James. James, do you like Christmas music?
I do like Christmas music. I like Christmas music a lot. In fact, there's nothing about the season that makes me feel more festive than hearing Christmas music. In fact, there is, as we'll discuss later on, a particular song that I will hear, and once I've heard that song, it is officially Christmas, and worryingly, it seems to get earlier every year. See, how about you?
I am one of those people, though, because I really like Christmas, and my dad's birthday is on Bonfire Night, so once Bonfire Night's out of the way, I kind of consider it starting to get festive. Now, I don't want to see Christmas decorations up until last weekend in November, but I really like Christmas songs, and I must admit, I do actually occasionally listen to a Christmas song in June.
Oh, that's disgusting, mate. I'm sorry.
There are some of them you just like, and you just get in your head, and you just go, you know what, banging that.
No, I'm sorry. If I'd have learnt that about you earlier, than there's no way we'd have a podcast series. That's the behaviour of an absolute heathen.
You are an absolute psychopath.
Yeah, there's nothing is normal about that. I'm sorry. I love Christmas songs as much as the next guy, unless the next guy's you, in which case apparently.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's talk about some overrated and underrated ones then, shall we? I believe I'm going to kick us off today, aren't I?
Yes. We thought with our Christmas special, obviously we're not doing albums because. Yeah, Christmas albums, no. They're just compilation albums, basically. So we are going to keep a brief special. We are going to give our overrated, underrated, favourite, least favourite of all things festive songs. So Alex is going to kick us off this week, and we're going to start with overrated. Alex.
And in true to form, I am going to go straight in there like an absolute savage and take down a big boy, because I think the most overrated Christmas song is Fairy Tale of New York.
You promised me Broadway was waiting for me.
Oh, it's good. It is a good song, but it is everyone's favourite Christmas song. Everyone you ask, what's your favourite Christmas song? They all say that, and I'm like, yeah, it's a good Christmas song. It's probably one of the better ones, but because of it, I think is a bit overrated. And also, most people only like it because they get to say "you scumbag, you maggot, you cheese-house, you faggot," or whatever the fucking line is. That's the only reason half the world likes it.
Well, apparently half the world doesn't like it this year because once again that controversy's reared its ugly head again, and apparently the words of those songs are being censored somewhat.
But it's everyone's favourite Christmas song, so a bit like Sgt. Pepper. Like
it ain't mine.
I'm not saying it's yours, but it is like nigh on everybody I speak to. Oh, what's your favourite Christmas song? And they're like, oh, it's the Pogues. Like, yeah, okay, it's good, but let's hear something different for a change.
I do think, and we do have to stress this with Christmas songs in general, to be fair, that there's a natural thing that all Christmas songs end up being overplayed to some degree because, as you know, Christmas gets absolutely bombarded onto everybody every year. And if you're not, say for example, you're not that much into Christmas, there are people who are not that much into Christmas for various reasons, and I understand that. But if you're not that much into Christmas, you have a difficulty getting away from it because every store you go into, appreciate that's not necessarily the case this year, but every store you go into traditionally will be piping Christmas songs from pretty much any time after sort of mid-November right up until Christmas Day and Boxing Day, and it is difficult to get away from it. And I understand that some songs do get, especially the older ones, like I think Fairy Tale New York came out in the late 80s, so it's pretty old now in terms of Christmas songs. I think you hear it so much that you become a bit like, you just get a bit fed up of it. So I can't agree with you on it being overrated necessarily because, as we'll come on to later, I quite like it. Do you want me to go in with my big hitter one?
Yes.
One Christmas song, well, there's two in my list actually, and the first one I'm going to go with is I really think that Last Christmas by Wham is overrated.
Last Christmas I gave you my heart, but the very next day you gave it away. This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to someone special.
I thoroughly agree.
In fact, I was toying with the idea of putting this in my least favourite list over my overrated list, but I've put it in my overrated list because I don't actually hate it that much. But there's something almost frustrating about the fact that it's so popular because I just don't think it's that great, and it's only going to become more popular given the fact that George Michael died on Christmas Day.
Yeah, a bit of a tricky one, that, isn't it?
And there's just something about it I just find it a bit annoying.
Okay,
and I don't like it that much at all.
I mean, I agree with you on that, so there's not much else for me to say. I agree it's completely overrated. I myself had another overrated one. I'm interested to hear all of your lists to see if you agree with me.
Okay, go on.
No,
There's only two on my list.
What's your second one?
I have a real issue with the song Santa Baby.
Okay, go on.
The song Santa Baby has been recorded by everyone from Madonna to Kylie Minogue to fucking Michael Bublé and all sorts of people. I hate it mostly because of not the covers that professional musicians do of it, but I hate how it becomes some sort of weirdly seductive thing that like people do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like the whole, like,
it's a very
Santa
sexualised
Baby
song,
thing.
isn't it?
It is. It's probably the most sexualised Christmas song of all of them, and there's nothing wrong with that per se. But I just hate the way people do versions of it. It just makes me feel really awkward and creeped out, and I just don't like it. And there's no particular version of that people have done that I don't like the most because it's essentially the same song.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the people that have done the cover of it, I actually quite like as musicians, like Gwen Stefani, who was famously in No Doubt. She did a cover of it, and I like No Doubt, but I just don't like that song so much because it just invites that like
sleaziness.
There's just something about the way it's delivered by people that aren't musicians that I just don't like that much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry, but that's on my list. What about you?
I'm about to hit you in a very, very personal place, James. And you already know what I'm going to say, don't you?
I have a horrible feeling I might do. Go on.
I think Merry Christmas Everybody by Slade's a bit overrated.
Yeah.
So here it is, Merry Christmas, everybody's having fun. Look to the future now, it's only just begun.
People only like it because Noddy Holder screams in the last bit. People spend 3.5 minutes waiting to like scream "It's Christmas."
So what Alex has done there is actually driven a knife straight through my heritage, because Noddy Holder, obviously famous from the Midlands, he's also famously, if you know where he's from very close to where I was born. I couldn't disagree more, and we'll come on to it later why. But I had a funny feeling you would say that because once again we've reached the point where something is super popular, so Alex doesn't like it.
Well, again, I don't dislike it, but I just think that I feel like kids and adults especially, they spend this they listen to it, oh yeah, good, yeah, but realistically at 2 minutes in a song, everyone's waiting for like that part at the end where they can scream "It's Christmas" at the wrong point and then look like a complete moron.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like a little bit about that song is the fact that it's the song that Slade are most known for, and I actually think there are other songs that they released that are actually better. But because it's a Christmas song, it's always going to be the most popular. In fact, I think I read an article quite recently saying that I think Noddy Holder and Jim Lee basically make about $250,000 a year off that song alone.
Bugger.
In royalties, because it is one of the most popular Christmas songs of all time.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like both Merry Christmas Everybody and Fairy Tale of New York have a place on every single Christmas album with like any integrity because they are two brilliant Christmas songs. But I do think they're both a little bit overrated as well. I don't think either of them are the best Christmas song. Then they're certainly not my favourites. But they seem...
I'll give you that. You don't dislike them.
I feel like part of the overrated, underrated thing that we need to discuss at some point is the philosophy of what is overrated and underrated. Because I feel like you and I have slightly different philosophies on it. and that is what drives.
Yeah, I think we do.
But we're not going to do that now because this is a Christmas special. But so, did you have any other overrated ones, or are we going to move on to underrated?
No, I just got those two in there. I just, I think when you mentioned the philosophy thing, then I think I do agree with the fact that I put the two that I've chosen for the Christmas special here in that category, is because they are basically almost songs I don't like that a lot of people do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like they my least favourite tends to be reserved for the album or song that I feel the most vitriol towards, in the sense that the noises that the album or song makes offend me in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I do that too, and we will get to that, I believe. Sure, trust me, we will get to that.
I'm sure we will get to that, but it's I think with you it's a little bit more, the overrated is just the ones that are really popular that you're not that keen on but think are alright, whereas I tend to go for the ones that I think are like just annoy me in some way. But anyway, we will move on. We are trying to keep things brief. We're moving on to underrated, and I have a funny feeling that we might agree on one in this one. Prove me right or wrong.
I don't think we will. So, firstly, I've got three here that I've written down for underrated, and so I'll try not to speak at too much length in general about them. One that I think is underrated, that I think you will straight away disagree with, is I always really like Stop the Cavalry by Jonah Louie.
Oh no, I'm with you on that.
I think that's a really underrated Christmas song. It's fantastic.
It's slightly depressing subject matter.
Yes,
but that's never stopped me liking things before.
No, yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it's terrific.
90% of Pink Floyd's output is actually depressing if you listen to it, and let's be honest, we're both big fans of that band, so...
We are, and I'm not expecting Pink Floyd to release a Christmas song either. But yeah, no, I Stop the Cavalry. It's one of my it is one of my favourites, but I think it's a really underappreciated song.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that. Funnily enough, I'm not actually listed it on my underrated list, but it is a personal favourite of mine. I could remember it being associated with Christmas as long as I can remember, to be honest. It's one of those songs, which a couple of which feature in my favourite ones that I just...
Yep.
They just scream Christmas, and if I've heard those songs, it means it's Christmas. So yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that one. Shall I do one of mine first?
Yeah, go for it.
You might agree with me on this one, because in fact it'll feature somewhere. I'm sure it will, because we've had a conversation about it in the past.
Yep.
But I think one of the underrated, underappreciated Christmas songs is "Christmas Wrapping" by the Waitresses.
Yeah, well, you and I definitely agree with that. In fact, we basically agree entirely for about 15 to 20 seconds of the song. Do you happen to have a bass guitar at hand?
I don't, and I haven't actually learned how to play that yet. But bringing the subject onto bass guitar, the bass riff in that song is absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's sort of a funky kind of melodic thing going on, and it's one of these, like, one of the cases in, like, a lot of Christmas songs tend to be like, they're not tend to be too complex. They tend to be quite catchy and fairly simple, but the bass playing in that is just great. It's just got such a catchy hook to it, catchy melody, and I actually quite like the lyrical content of the song as well, because it's like dealing with people who don't like Christmas and then kind of come round to it eventually. And it's never talked about that much as a Christmas song, but whenever I hear it, it just makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, I love it as well. There is no part of the intro to that song that doesn't make me go, "Yep, what a banger."
We've discussed before. It's like what would happen if Geddy Lee wrote a Christmas song.
Yeah, that's actually very true. Oh, what a great! Yeah, it really is.
That bass riff has got a Geddy Lee thing written all over it.
One of the other ones I would probably put in there, which, I mean, we've spoken about a few times in the past, and I'm not saying it's an A-list Christmas song, but I like it, and most people have never even heard of it, even though they definitely know the song, is I always quite liked "A Spaceman Came Travelling" by Krista Ball.
I'm with you there. In fact, for many years of my life, I knew the melody of that song but I didn't know what the song was called, and I didn't even realise for a long time it was a Christmas song.
Exactly, and this is what I mean. Everyone knows the song, but a lot of people just don't really know. It's very much a Christmas song that just kind of blends in. It's like you'll hear it on the compilation.
It's almost one of those Christmas songs, and I'll bring reference back to this in a minute. It's almost one of those Christmas songs that, because it's not explicitly a Christmas song, but it's about Christmas, it sort of falls under the radar a little bit, and I think one of my choices coming up shortly will also sort of reinforce that. Should we move on to favourite?
Yes, we should. So, are you going to start favourite, or shall I?
You can start favourite.
I mean, I've got a few here, but quite appropriately, given last week's topic and and roughly the sort of dates that we're recording this, is that actually probably my two favourite Christmas songs are Happy Christmas / The War Is Over by John Lennon and Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney.
I'll give you that, yeah. I mean, they don't happen to be on my list necessarily, but I do have a big appreciation for them both, actually.
Slightly more weighting to John Lennon as well. I think Happy Christmas. I call it John. I refuse to put John Lennon and Yoko Ono in that title. It's John Lennon. But yeah, I think that is, to me, that is the... I'll tell you one of the reasons as well is because my dad always used to, and he still does, play a Christmas album, like one of these compilation albums, and that is the first song on it as well. So I always associate it as that is the song I associate most with Christmas when the acoustic guitar comes in.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of both of those songs, and it's testament to the talent of the Beatles that the two main songwriters that had big Christmas hits, and I do like those songs both. I like them both.
Terrific.
I'll give you that. Controversial one, which we'll only go over quickly, which is controversial with you anyway, that I really am a big fan of Slade's Merry Christmas, Everybody. I do like it. There's something about it. It's not just because of where I'm from, it is also because I associate that song so much with Christmas, and once I've heard it, obviously because you can't associate it with anything else, but once I've heard it, that is the song that makes me think, right, it's now Christmas, because it's just an evocative song, and that's a little bit like another one that I will just quickly mention as well, which is Wizards' I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day.
I absolutely love that song. I'm really glad you said that.
I wish it could be Christmas every day. When the kids start singing and the band begins to play. Oh, I wish it could be Christmas every day. Let the bells ring out for Christmas.
It's not my favourite, but it's one of my favourites, so I'm glad that's come up. I also would like to point out for all of our listeners that James just said that Christmas songs remind him of Christmas. What a poet.
Thank you. I'm a profound man. No, but there's a lot of Christmas songs out there, let's be honest, there's hundreds of them, but there's certain ones that for me are very evocative songs that remind me of childhood and things like that. And Merry Christmas Everybody and I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day, particularly the latter actually. There's something about Roy Wood's version of that, the way he sings that. He's just really, really, really good, and I like the spirit of it and the sound of it and everything. I just love it. And again, another little slight controversial one for you. Fairy Tale in New York, I do like it. I'm sorry. I think it's great. Kirsty MacColl, the late great Kirsty MacColl, does a great job on the vocals in that. And yeah, I don't listen to the Pogues a huge amount outside of that, I'll be honest, but I really like that song, and I actually did a duet of that at a Christmas party a couple of years ago with work, with a good friend of mine on the Kirsty MacColl vocals, and it went down a storm. And I'm not one for doing karaoke usually, but that went down really well. Quite a hard song to sing when you have to split the vocals between two people, because you know the lyrics to it in your head, but you never know when your vocal is and when the other one is, if you know what I mean.
Oh, you're talking to the wrong person, mate. You know I'm an absolute demon on the karaoke. You've seen so many videos.
I have, and I sadly don't have it anymore. But I did have a recording of Alex, a video, singing at karaoke, Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen, which was, as a flattering review, I would call appalling. And
fair. There's nothing that's incorrect about that statement.
Moving on very quickly, before we go off the favourites list though, I do have to give an honourable mention to another song that is very close to my heart, and that is, and you'll know this is coming at some point in the podcast because I taught you how to play it on guitar.
Yeah, I know.
It is 2,000 Miles by the Pretenders.
He's gone 2,000 miles. It's very far. The snow is falling down. It gets colder day by day. I miss you. The children will sing. He'll be back at Christmas time.
I love it as well. And yes, James
Absolutely
did
love
indeed teach
that
me how to
song.
play that on the guitar, and I can still play that on the guitar, which is good news.
You can.
Yeah, that's one of my
Yeah,
favourites.
love-
To be fair,
love that
that's
song.
one of my favourite songs, not just Christmas songs. I love that song. So I would like to close out this favourite section by putting one out there again. This is another one that a lot of people know, but they don't know they know, which is In Dulce Jubilo by Mike Oldfield. It's not got any lyrics in it. It is a musical number. Everyone recognises it because it's like really, really famous at Christmas. Typically, for an overrated, underrated podcast, I actually think Mike Oldfield as a musician is a really, really underappreciated musician. Everybody knows loads and loads of songs by him, and he can play everything.
Yeah, the guy recorded an entire album with just him playing on it, Tubular Bells.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote a prog rock album and he played every instrument himself, and he basically launched Virgin Music as an entity. Like Richard Branson owes a lot to Mike Oldfield.
And as a very, very minor note, I don't know how much you know about this, James, but the electric, it's just got quite a famous guitar solo in it that Mike Oldfield plays because he's a guitarist. And that is, I think, I don't know if you know, James, it's played on an SG, but a slightly modified one. And it is the best Gibson SG has ever sounded. And I absolutely hate Gibson SGs. But it sounds,
I know you hate
sounds
them.
amazing on that. But it's a modified one, so it's slightly different. But yeah, small fact.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. You've taught me something new there about guitars and Mike Oldfield, so...
Yes.
Let it never be said that this podcast is not an educational experience. And we're on to our last section.
Least favourite.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go first with this one because I've only actually got one choice of song, and I've also got as a bit of a bonus because you know I never do things in the correct way in this podcast at all. Cut back to last week where I chose an entire side of an album as my underrated Beatles song, but. In the spirit of that, I'll let you go first, and then I'll tell you my choice.
So I have three because they are three Christmas songs that not only are they my least favourite, I hate them. And one of them is Last Christmas by Wham. I absolutely hate it. It's an awful song. Yeah. I can't stand it.
Parallels, my friend.
Indeed. The second one is I absolutely hate All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. Can't stand it.
That nearly ended up on my overrated list, actually.
Yeah, really, really don't like that. I don't find it that interesting at all. But I hate both of those. But the one that I absolutely cannot stand is Frosty the Snowman by the Jackson 5. That is a horrible song. Everything about that is awful, and it is summed up by the fact that at the end, I don't know if it's Michael Jackson or whoever, there's just a child going. It's just fucking ridiculous. It's such a poor song. Frosty the Snowman. It's horrible. Like,
this podcast was worth doing just to hear you do that.
What an appalling song! I hate it so much, and that's not even a disliking it as a Christmas song. It is just dreadful. Frosty the Snowman by the Jackson 5. End that. All kinds of ending.
Well, to finish the podcast out, I have to give you my least favourite choice. As I said, there's an album and a song coming in at number one. Everything to do with the Bob Dylan Christmas album.
Who's got a beard that's long and white? Santa's got a beard that's long and white. Who comes round on special night? Santa comes round on special night. Special night, beard that's white. Must be Santa, must be Santa, must be Santa, Santa Claus.
You've probably never heard it. And
I don't think I have.
That's probably.
But then you also know, spoiler alert, listeners, I think Bob Dylan's really overrated, so...
I moderately think he's overrated, yeah. Although it did stagger me to learn recently that he'd sold his entire catalogue to Warner Brothers for 300 million, which I thought was amazing. Like, I believe that is more money adjusted for inflation than Paul McCartney paid Michael Jackson for the Beatles' back catalogue, because Michael Jackson wouldn't own the Beatles' catalogue. Bob Dylan in 2009 released a Christmas album, which is basically made up of covers of Christmas songs. Whatever you like about Bob Dylan and whatever you don't like about Bob Dylan had a style. Bob Dylan had a style of singing, a style of lyric writing, which was provocative and interesting and poetic, some would say. Him translating that into Christmas material just does not work for me on any level. And what I do respect about Bob Dylan, i.e. his lyrics and his ability to write songs, is completely shattered by everything to do with this album. I just don't like it at all. I just really don't. And the fortunate thing is you'll probably never hear any of it. And I've only heard a few cuts from it in various forums. But yeah, it's just not very good. And Bob Dylan should not do Christmas things. Bob Dylan should do political anti-war songs about stuff like that. Just don't do Christmas. I'm sorry, Bob, but no.
Have you got a song that I've actually heard of, by any chance?
You might have heard of this, you might not have heard of this, but I certainly have, and I'm certainly disappointed that I have. Question I never thought I'd ever ask you, either on a podcast or in person. Do you remember the Cheeky Girls?
Well, yeah, of course I do.
The Cheeky Girls did a Christmas song. It's called Have a Cheeky Christmas.
Life is good, we all go crazy. Light the fire and come with me. Dancing at the Christmas party. Lots of wine and the boys get cheeky. Baby, baby, underneath the mistletoe. Baby, baby, there is dancing in the snow. Baby, baby, take the reins and hold on tight. This could be our lucky night.
I mean, that just sounds
It's
awful.
fucking
doesn't it?
awful.
Good.
It's so bad. Have a Cheeky Christmas is a terrible, terrible Christmas song. The Romanian singing duo who are famous for not winning Pop Stars The Rivals many years ago. They came out with I mean, I didn't like the Cheeky Girls the first time round, but I certainly didn't like when they did a Christmas song. It's terrible. It's just one of the most irritating things I've heard in the Christmas song realm. I just hate it.
It's just a noise.
It might stem from the fact that I don't really like the Cheeky Girls, and they are a very early 2000s reference. But yeah, awful, terrible.
I can't contradict that at all. It's awful. I think it's a bit strange that we've managed to go through this entire podcast and neither of us have mentioned for any section Band-Aid.
I've got a difficult relationship with the Band-Aid song. I don't dislike it as a song in general, and I have a feeling of like the fact that it was done for such a good purpose that, you know, I can't be too hard on it. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's not on my top 10, I would say, but it is one of those songs that does remind me of Christmas a bit. And, you know, Feed the World is still it's a mantra I can get behind, so I can't be too harsh on the song because it has been done for the right reasons.
Oh, yeah, I mean, talking to the wrong person, mate, I quite like it. I always thought it's a great Christmas song. But
It's alright.
I wouldn't put it as
somewhere in the
overrated
middle
or
ground for me.
underrated, but it's in maybe like top 15. Something that we should probably mention at this point is that by and large, Christmas songs, or famous ones, really have died out for a long time. Like, most of them seem to have been released in like the 70s and the 80s, except for one that we've not mentioned, and the last...
Darkness?
Yep, that is the last good Christmas song that has been released, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought The Darkness were okay when they came out in the early sort of 2000s. Do actually quite like their Christmas song though. I like it sounds almost like, it sounds a bit like Queen doing a Christmas song, I think, with the sort of harmonies and all that, and the high, you know, the high vocals and the harmonies and stuff like that. And I actually quite like the clever wordplay in that song as well. It is quite amusing.
Yeah.
It's childishly amusing that they managed to fit those words.
It's absolutely deliberate though.
I like the fact that they've written what on the surface appears to be a serious sort of, you know, great Christmas song, but he's just got so many innuendos in there. It's just funny. I do like it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good place to end as well, actually.
The jury's out on when the next good great Christmas song's ever going to be written. I certainly hope I write it, because judging by my reading into the royalties that people who write Christmas songs receive, then it's certainly a lucrative business to get into. So I will work on that over the festive period. But so anyway, wrapping up, no pun intended, our next episode is going to be all about Led Zeppelin. But in the meantime, to all our listeners out there, thank you very much for listening to us throughout this year in our two different guises. All that's left for us to say really is have a very, very Merry Christmas, and hopefully for everybody a much better 2021 than 2020. And until next time, he's been Alex.
And he's been James, and also driving home for Christmas also sucks.
Thank you very much for listening to us this year, and we'll be back with you very soon.
Oh,